are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the College League Podcast. I'm Dylan, able to take on Twitter. The latest Auburn athletics news. It's a very zoomed-in camera right now. Let me take a couple of scoots back as we're here to talk about Auburn football and all things going on around the program right now. So, of course, Auburn now up to the number I have is 15 total players who have announced their intentions to enter the NCAA transfer portal whenever it opens up on January 2nd. So, again, this is not something that, not to be expected. This is a bunch of guys who are very talented athletes and looking for some probably a better payday, but mostly looking for better opportunities. New coaching staff coming in, which it looks like for the most part, the coaching staff looks finished unless I'm missing a position. Everything does look like it's finally kind of simmered down and Auburn's finally found all the pieces needed to start year one of the Golish era. So that's nice to talk about. But, of course, I will go ahead and give the news that, Marcus Davis has announced, but has been hired by Florida to be the wide receivers coach. Derek Nix, no longer with the program either. He's going to Alabama to be their wide receivers coach. So, right now, Auburn's wide receiver coach is going to be Cody Burns, which was speculated, but it just took a while to announce it because I do believe they were just waiting around to see exactly what where they wanted to fit in Marcus Davis and if he was going to be able to fit in. What does this mean for Auburn's wide receiver core? I think Cody Burns is a very, very good wide receiver coach. He's, I think what we always bring up that conversation we had a couple of episodes ago about who Auburn alum that are going to be the most likely to get head coaching job soon, and that's Cody Burns is at the top of that list. So, getting into it, Malcolm Simmons over the weekend has announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal. Until today, I can firmly say he was the biggest loss of the offseason thus far for Auburn. Today, of course, Jay Crawford announced his intentions to enter the portal, as well as a lot of O-linemen. Seth Wilfred, Favor Edwin, and DeAndre Carter have all announced since the last time. Of course, also Hollis Davidson as well. But Malcolm Simmons to me is a pretty big loss. I understand there's a lot of people who say, why would you want to keep a roster that has lost, to Alabama 3 years in a row under Hugh Freeze, 6 years in a row, and just in totality, keeping a roster together that hasn't had a winning record in 3 years. And to an extent, I can see where you're coming from on that. But again, good coaches can win you games despite and bad coaches can lose the games despite the talent on their roster. Again, I always thought it was a coaching issue. Malcolm Simmons is a big loss, and I don't know where exactly the universe takes him. Again, it's always wishing the best of luck unless they go to Alabama or Georgia, and then I hope they have the worst season of their career. But I can't say fully the worst season of their career. But Auburn, I think Cam Coleman, for the most part, I'm not heard anything bad about Cam Coleman leaving, but I think right now Cam Coleman is the focal point for this Auburn wide receiver core and maintaining and retaining him. Right now, Auburn's football roster is completely empty per the website. Get ready for the 2026 season. Just kind of feeling out who's going to be here and who won't be here. For what at least I can expect, again, On to Victory is doing everything they possibly can to make sure Cam Coleman is on Auburn's roster next year. Despite how you feel about the losses on the resume, it's hard to not agree that Cam Coleman is the best wide receiver Auburn may have ever seen. And again, I think Cody Burns is a great replacement for Marcus Davis. Again, I think he's one of the best up-and-coming coaches in college football. And again, a guy who is good at his job as well as loves this school. Again, that's why Golish made him the first hire. Then he said as soon as he got agreed to the job, he immediately called Cody Burns. And again, associate head coach, co-OC, and wide receivers coach for Cody Burns. So wide receiver wise, it's hard to say exactly who's going to be going soon. They kind of just been going randomly. So first off is Perry Thompson, then Horatio Fields, and then of course Malcolm Simmons being the latest guy. I'm worried about a couple of other guys from that class of 2025 who might Again, Sam Turner has been posting highlights on his TikTok page and making comments about not being a fit for the offense with some of the comments I read. I don't know if someone said that to him or what, but I can imagine Sam Turner might end up transferring. I can imagine that a lot of guys are going to end up transferring, which means Auburn's going to have to go really, really hard in the transfer portal again when it opens up next month. And just what, 15, 16, 17 days? So it's going to be a very, very busy transfer portal cycle. And again, if it only takes place over 10 days, that's going to be absolutely ridiculous to go through. But again, with this offense moving forward, I think you're going to see a lot of additions from USF, depending on how exactly their portal cycle goes. Again, I think USF made a very good replacement hire in Brian Hartline. Again, I think he did a lot of great things over there at Ohio State, and I think he'll continue to do great things at USF. So just kind of see how they plan out right now with how their roster retention is going. But I imagine if the guys are loyal to Golish, they're going to move on and might come to Auburn again. Keyshawn Singleton is a guy I hear a lot about, a dude who's like 6'3" and lightning quick. So be a great number 2 guy alongside Cam Coleman. And again, quarterback again is really important for this wide receiver room as well. And I think Deuce Knight does seem to be a big target for Golish. And again, whether that means Byron Brown is still in play or not, again, I see a lot of Auburn fans are all for Byron Brown coming to the Plains, but I think for a recruiting sake, I think Deuce Knight brings you a lot of wide receiver talent. Again, Byron Brown is not a name in college football. Dude balled out last year for USF, but Deuce Knight just kind of carrying the talent that he has. I mean, he's going to light it up, especially with Golish. And if his staff is as good as he says it is, he's bringing guys that he knows, he trusts, that have developed talent before. And I can't wait to talk about Larry Scott in a little bit. Just because I'm hyped up about the tight end position. He's building a staff that he can trust to develop the talent with him. And again, always going to love the fact that he said the offensive coordinator is going to be the one in charge of calling the plays. I've been sick and tired of the last few coaches that have not given up that job to the guy they hired to do that job. But again, with this veer and shoot offense, you're going to see a lot of, the wide receivers are going to ball out. Hey, Cam Coleman is going to have a phenomenal season. I don't doubt that in the slightest bit for the one last year that he is at Auburn before he goes and becomes a first-round number 1 overall pick in the 2027 draft. But, I mean, I think Keyshawn Singleton is a guy to look out for here. Again, I want to say that Sam Turner looks like he might be a transfer just strictly because anytime I see an athlete posting, highlights on their social media, I just immediately okay, yeah, you're basically saying you're open for business. That's all I can really see there. But again, I know the Smith brothers, I don't know what their outlook is like. I don't know what Bryce Kane looks like here. And again, there's a lot of guys, I think walk-ons should be okay. I mean, I just look back at this wide receiver core, and again, there were not any spots of this season where I thought the wide receivers were necessarily bad. There were definitely some games where they're very drop heavy, but regardless, I mean, the quarterback position was the worst part of this offense for about 8 weeks of the year, as well as offensive line. So again, I thought Marcus Davis did a great job of developing the wide receivers while he was here. I think Cody Burns is going to do a phenomenal job doing that later on during his career back at Auburn. But again, right now, Cam Coleman is really the only guy we have that I can firmly say is, the wide receiver at Auburn. I imagine because this new transfer portal, I firmly am on the side of I hate the NCAA for how they're kind of, addressing things that they think are wrong with college football. I think the transfer portal has been neglected by whoever's officiating anything. I think people are tampering early. I think people are I think there's a lot of greed with college football, which again doesn't shock me. There's greed in every sport, but I'm just baffled by the amount of transfer outs Auburn has, especially because there's a lot of continuity here. I don't imagine a lot of D linemen or linebackers transfer out, though. I can see firmly that Xavier Atkins wants to be back on the Plains. Dude's been lighting it up in the offseason, too, with all his awards and accolades that he has been racking up. Dude's like the first team All-American linebacker since like Carlos Dansby, I think. But it's crazy to see. But again, getting Vontrell back is big. Dirk being back is big, especially for the linebacker room. Again, the wide receivers, again, just kind of wrapping up that position group. Again, I think Auburn's going to go crazy in the portal. I think On to Victory is already prepping themselves for, what's going to be a very, 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 very hectic cycle. Again, wide receivers are going to be readily available. Again, Auburn is going, and again, Auburn got some dudes recruiting-wise. Spencer, of course, is going to be an absolute dog. Dude broke almost every record at Saraland. But again, going forward, I think Auburn's offense, it's hard to be worse. But again, Tyler Hudanick, I think is going to be a great recruiter for Auburn going forward for the offensive line. I love Cody Burns a lot. I think, again, and when you talk about like hire wise, like if you put a hierarchy of like ranking hires that a coach has made, Alex Golish, number 1 is Durkin, and of course number 2, right there with it is Cody Burns. So again, I'm not gonna break a sweat over it. I wish Malcolm the best of luck. I wish Perry Thompson the best of luck. I wish Horatio Fields the best of luck. But I think wide receiver is still going to be good because I trust this offense and its ability to get wide receivers the ball, and I also trust On to Victory to not drop Cam Coleman. Again, go on and get ready. SIDs at Auburn University to have a retirement party for the numbers of Cam Coleman and Xavier Atkins when it's all said and done, because I fully believe those are going to be all-time greats at Auburn. But yeah, wide receiver-wise, again, Malcolm, a big loss, but I think Auburn can get through it. I think that, again, portal – last episode, we did the rankings for what positions of need. Wide receiver has just steadily been working its way up the list. I think right now it's probably firmly at 2. And cornerback or secondary players being firmly at 3 now, with the transferring of Jay Crawford, which I believe that probably comes at the expense of Crime Dog leaving. But again, passing the torch, I think DeMarcus Van Dyke is also a very good replacement for him. And again, the guy who you don't see this very often in college sports or just sports in general, where a guy is just passing the torch, it feels like. And that's what his post kind of was reminiscent of, is just passing the torch to a guy that he coached. But regardless, Jay Crawford to me is without a doubt the biggest loss the portal Auburn has suffered thus far. And again, it goes Jay Crawford, Malcolm Simmons. I think there's a pretty substantial gap before you get to your next few guys on that list, which again, I think damage control-wise, Auburn is not – I don't want to say – they've not lost enough that they can't replace. Again, I think Auburn has a lot of talent in the secondary to where Jay Crawford I just can be next man up. Again, I know New Boy and Eric Winters are safeties, but I trust their development moving forward. I think Auburn can get back to where they need to be very quickly, and I think the portal is going to be a very, very busy time. Again, Auburn should always recruit itself. I think Auburn has a staff built to recruit. Again, Golish's whole background is recruiting, so that's another big moment here. But I love the staff so very much. And again, gonna go get into it just because if you know me a lot, when it comes to positions that I love to talk about, again, special teams always on my radar. Love a good long snapper. If you get a good long snapper, you're set for life, at least for 5 years, because they're gonna be there the whole time. But tight ends have always been my favorite positions to watch, and it was always a position I wanted to play in football. Growing up, Lutz and Kirkin, you had CJ Uzama, Auburn had, and again, recently Votto Fairweather. I'm a Panthers fan. Greg Olson's always been one of my favorite guys to ever watch ever, and I miss having an absolutely phenomenal tight end in the Carolina Blue and Black. But Auburn made a great hire for tight ends coach. and that being former Howard head coach Larry Scott, who, if you didn't know this already, was part of the development team at Florida that helped turn Kyle Pitts into the top, 10 pick that he was. I forgot if it was 8. But a phenomenal hire here. A guy with a background in it. He, also a USF guy from his past, even way before Golish was ever really contemplating being a head coach. Was at Tennessee from 2016 to 2017 as the tight ends coach and offensive coordinator. 18 and 19 is sort of at Florida coaching tight ends. He's been at Howard ever since the 2020 season, which again was the year where I think the year where Kyle Pitts really kind of broke out, but helped the development of Kyle Pitts, and now going to come back to the SEC to be the tight ends coach for the Auburn Tigers. Again, great hire. Again, when you talk about the offense, and again, I mentioned earlier, offensive line and quarterback are right there. Tight end, third place. Firmly cemented in third place. Tight ends have been awful. Auburn's already lost one guy in Hollis Davidson to the portal. I imagine Ryan Gee. I would love to see what exactly conversations are with him, because I think Auburn could end up trying to keep him. Preston Howard, I think if you're Golish or any other offensive coach, you should look at Preston Howard and be like, hey, man, you're not fit for this offense. Preston Howard has been one of the worst tight ends I've ever watched play for Auburn. And again, Sal Cannella, I made me really appreciate Sal Cannella. I did not give Sal Cannella a lot of credit whenever he was at Auburn. He made a lot of bad drops, but he made a lot of great catches. Preston Howard has been, without a doubt, the least consistent and the worst tight end I've ever watched play in the Navy and burnt orange uniforms. It's been embarrassing. Games were lost because of it. I would say the Missouri game, outside of the few missed kicks, which I put more on the special teams coordinator than anything, key drops late in the game. There have been, and I'm surprised he has not announced yet, strictly just because of the fan backlash. Again, so many mistakes made, and I wish errors were also a football sport, because I think that you can attest to a lot of errors on the offense to trying to get the ball to Preston Howard. Tight ends were an embarrassment. Again, it goes back to last season where, as an Auburn fan, you're just disgusted by the fact that I can't trust my special teams unit to punt the ball past the 50 or make a field goal past the 35. Tight ends are always supposed to be the for sure hands. Again, when I talk about Horatio Fields this past year, it's always we need a guy who can just, run a little out route and get us 5 easy yards. That's what a tight end should be. And Auburn didn't have that. Brendan Frazier, I think, did make a lot of good, great steps in the right direction. But again, he was out of the season, out for the season early. Again, Brendan Frazier, I think, if he would have just been healthy all season long, I think Auburn we wouldn't be complaining about tight ends like we are, because I don't think the focal point would have been Preston Howard. So I just kind of look at it, and I guess he would have been, because he was a starter from the get-go, just receiving tight end wise. But I think just giving Ryan Gee more of an opportunity would have been so much more beneficial to this offense. But again, I think Larry Scott is a mass. There's not been a miss in this hiring cycle for Golish, and I ultimately believe that Auburn has a staff that, again, is made to build a program. And you're doing it the right way. You got a guy like Cody Burns who loves Auburn to death. You have guys who are, and again, it feels different than, with Hugh Freeze bringing in his guys like he did. The Golish guys, again, it's the energy level. It's the impact. His strength and conditioning coach, dude, I don't want to mess with him. He looks like a scary dude, which, again, that's what you want out of a strength and conditioning coach. But just hearing him talk about what he's going to bring to Auburn and everything, it's we're going to I'm going to boog a lot. The booging glasses are over here looking at me, and it's the Green Goblin. Just hearing how the coaching staff is talking about this team and what they want to do at Auburn. And again, I look back at the past few coaching cycles, and again, I'm probably going to sound a little biased because the whole Auburn fan for life here, but also B, Golish was always my hire. You can go back to mid-season, right before Hugh Freeze got fired. I was talking about Alex Golish. You can talk about like right after he got fired. I was talking about Alex Golish. And again, my number 2 option was Durkin. Like it was Golish, Durkin. That's what I'm talking about. And again, and just the energy, man. The USF being as good as they were, and people talking about, well, he was in the American Conference. USF was 1-11 3 years ago, and he turned them into a bowl winning team for 3 years in a row. And again, the energy level, you bring in guys who have that same mentality you do. Durkin's got that same mentality Golish does for the defense, and building a staff that I really, really love. And again, Vontrell Williams is one of my favorite. Like I forgot what someone tried to call him one time on the show, but dude, Vaughn is just an absolute beast, man, and the players love him, and that's exactly why he's a even better hire. You know, when you have a great coach and the players love him, it's like a perfect mix. It's like it's like a reverse Orgeron, you know, because the players loved Orgeron, but he wasn't a great coach, but the players loved to play for him. Vaughn is going to be I don't think he'll be a D-line coach for long. He'll be a DC. Shorter rather than later, and he's going to be one heck of a coordinator. But I need to win a championship at Auburn first. But again, there's not been a miss in this hiring cycle. I think Auburn has pretty much hit everywhere they needed to hit, and they're on fire right now. Again, you bring in 2 defensive coordinators from the SEC and make them position coaches, with Coach Banks being the safeties coach. Again, and I think the conversations being had, I did love to hear that like a few weeks ago when Golish was talking about how he's like constantly talking to these guys, and it's like hours long conversations about, you know, why Auburn why we need to keep these guys, why we want you, you know, making sure to get guys that love Auburn and just want to build a program that can win. Again, there's no team out there that is losing the amount of games Auburn is and still selling out stadiums. It's not happening anywhere else. So, and the Auburn players know that. They know the support Auburn fans are giving them. And Golish understands that too. And that's what you're getting a lot from guys he's bringing in, from guys that he's recruiting. And again, you know, Michigan's got some issues, and they lost a guy this past week in Barry McWhorter, and immediately Auburn guy. So, and it adds to the class, which is awesome. But again, this transfer portal is going to be big time. And again, it's going to be a very important portal cycle. You know, when you have a coaching carousel as crazy as it's been this offseason, you can pretty much assume that it's going to be an even crazier transfer portal. So everything is kind of set. It's like a tsunami. Like all these coaches leaving kind of like as the waves go out. And then the portal cycle is just this giant wave just crashing down. Again, right now, Auburn's at 15 guys that have announced their intentions to enter the portal. I can see that list skyrocketing. I mean, dude, it's been – it was 3 linemen within a day, it felt like. Again, you've lost 3 receivers. You lost a quarterback, a tight end, a D lineman, a linebacker, and 2 corners with Rayon Strader and Jay Crawford. Again, other guys, I mean, like you have guys like Kieran Crawford, Keldrick, and Jeremiah Wright who are, you know, all going off the NFL draft. I imagine you're going to have a lot of guys that are also going to go off that way. I think Kyan Lee is a big question mark because I don't see Kyan Lee entering the portal, but I could see him entering the draft. And I think he had a pretty great year. People weren't really throwing to him all that much, which is exactly what you want as a corner. But I think Kyan Lee is the guy who I'm looking at probably potentially go to the NFL draft. Got guys like, you know, Dylan Way, I think is gone. Connor Liu, I think is going to the NFL draft. Don't know what the what it looks like for Mason Murphy and Xavier Chaplin, but I could see those guys also transferring out, if not going to the draft. I would love to see what Jeremiah Cobb is thinking. I would love Cobb to be on the team again for next year, but again, I also can see running back being a position Auburn's going to touch on a lot. Golish does love the running back by committee. So getting a guy, you know, to pair up with Cobb or, you know, have Cobb as more of the complimentary back. But I think Cobb has proven to be a high caliber SEC back. Just he's just not built for those 30 plus carries that he had to get last year. And it was really, really evident that Auburn was unable to do anything once he got overloaded. Because Omar Mabson, as good as he can be in his development, I mean, is not an X factor yet. Didn't see a lot of Alvin Henderson. Darrell Robinson went out of the season early. So I didn't have a lot of guys that you could really trust to get in there and do some damage. I think Justin Jones ended up being RB2 when the season came to an end. So just getting guys like that. And I think, as the portal cycle gets closer, we're going to be talking about a lot more guys to look at. Again, it's already been a crazy announcement time of guys in the portal. DJ Lagway at Florida has already announced his intentions in the portal. Dylan Raiola, quarterback in Nebraska, has already decided to. Arch Manning is coming back to Texas. Just a crazy, crazy time of college football. So we'll be here talking about it all the time, trying to make sure that, good Lord, Auburn builds a roster that can compete and win. And none of this, we're close stupidity. When Auburn comes, and again, the schedule's been announced, and it's a tough schedule. It is a very, very tough schedule for Auburn this season. And again, you got LSU back, you got Florida back on your schedule altogether. Vanderbilt is on your schedule forever until the next wave of realignment. But again, Baylor, Southern Miss, and then you get right into SEC play in week 3 with Florida, Vanderbilt, at Tennessee, at Georgia, home versus LSU, at Ole Miss, Arkansas at home, at Mississippi State, Sanford, and then at Alabama. Very, very tough schedule. And again, you get a year mulligan. Even when Golish was talking about like when things started getting easier for them as coaches, it's year 2, 3, and 4. And that doesn't mean mulligan does not mean 3 and 9, 4 and 8. Mulligan is like 5 and 7 to me. Again, Auburn should have those high standards. And again, I understand that Auburn hasn't warranted having high standards as of late, but Auburn is a program that carries those standards of we are a winning football program. And Auburn finally has a coach that I can feel like wants to do that and has the energy behind him, has a staff behind him that's willing to do it. Again, I was always for Golish from the get-go. This like midway through the season when it felt like it was a matter of when, not if, Hugh Freeze was going to be fired. Golish was always my pick, and I am super stoked to see what more he can do in just these few weeks. I would imagine he's probably still putting together a support staff. I can imagine that, but for the most part, I think the staff is pretty much announced and done. And again, I think it's you got heaters on all sides. Offense and defense. Just got a bunch of dudes who are just ready to win at Auburn. And I can assure you, every single player, every single former athlete from Auburn, every single fan is ready for Auburn to get back into winning more games than losing. And I think that Golish has built a roster that A, understands that, and B, is going to get Auburn there. So super stoked about that. So we'll be back on Thursday. Go and get out of here. A shorter show. We'll be talking about the Auburn versus Purdue game going on the 20th and determining whether or not Auburn will be able to get that upset there. Again, it's been a very tough slate of games for Auburn this season. You've played so many top 5 teams in Houston, Michigan, and Arizona. More top 5 teams than most teams will play in like a complete season. Auburn's done it in half a season. Got Purdue again. Auburn not a favorite in this game whatsoever. Coming off of a decent win over Chattanooga, but regardless, plenty to be excited about for Auburn. I still think that Auburn is still a Sweet 16 team. It does suck losing Amika Operum. Don't really know the specifics of what's going on. I don't think anyone's really reported the specifics, but I understand keeping the privacy up for him. Am I saying this right? I'm looking at the game cast for another basketball game, and Duke's like struggling versus Lipscomb. Is that women's basketball or is that men's basketball? Because They're struggling versus. That's funny. That's awesome. Go Lipscomb. But yeah, I think Auburn men's basketball. I'm not selling the season yet. I think Auburn still has a lot more to prove. SEC play starts at the turn of the new year. Got Purdue and got Queens to get through before Auburn starts off the season at Georgia for SEC conference play. You got to get better at rebounding, and you got to find a way to do it without Emeka Obram and just kind of staying healthy. That's been the theme of the season thus far for Auburn. But we're going to go and get out of here. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in for this Top of the College League podcast. We're back on Thursday updating if anybody else enters the portal from now until then or any other big news that happens around Auburn athletics. Of course, gymnastics just had their preview meet yesterday. Sadly, I was unable to attend due to a work-related scheduling conflict, which does suck. I've made sure to go to the last two, so that does suck. But you best believe that I will be making my way to a gym meet this season, as I always do. Me and my fiance love going. The gym meet's so much fun. If you've not been to an Auburn gym meet, make it a priority to go at some point this year. They're so much fun, dude. They are so fun to watch, and they're electric. Every single sport that goes on in Neville Arena is electric. Every single one of them. Volleyball is electric. Men's basketball, women's basketball, all the sports that going on in there are electric. So go support all the athletic programs at Auburn University because Auburn loves Auburn, not just Auburn football. So that being said, we're going to go and get out of here. I'm Dylan able to take on Twitter. Find me on Instagram as well at Dylan, DYLNLARCK. From writing the College Podcast, like, comment, subscribe, leaving your thoughts on the transfer portal. What is your outlook for Auburn's wide receiver room going into this upcoming season? Who are you wanting Auburn to target in the transfer portal moving forward? And, of course, are you Team Deuce or are you Team Byram? Yeah, I'm just kind of seeing like a split in the fan base on that. But go and get out of here. Everyone enjoy your Tuesday evening. Stay warm. Of course, it's been in the teens the past 2 days for me. My car was an icicle when I went to work this morning. But we'll go and get out of here. So thank you again for tuning in to the College Podcast. And as always, War Eagle.